Mark Smelly Bell here, talking about sugar fasting. I'm gonna wait for some people to pop in here and set my phone up. Give me a second here. Get it squished into that thing there like that. I think that works. Hopefully everybody can see me. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I got my fruit bowl smoothie thing that I made earlier. A lot of raspberries, blueberries, cherry. Very good. I promise you guys I will do a full day of eating since I keep getting asked about that. So I will provide that for you guys. I'm not sure what the excitement is, but I'll show you guys, me eating fruit, drinking fruit juice. Unfortunately, I don't track stuff. I haven't gotten blood work done. So these are all things that people want to see me do. Personally, that's not my thing. That's not my forte. I don't care that much about like scientific accuracy. I do obviously care about my health and I do want to check some of those things, but even I thought about, pricking my finger because I do have a glucose thing that I can check I can check and see, my blood sugar, but I was like, what do I have to compare that to? And the answer is nothing. So because I don't have anything to compare it to previously, I don't know how I normally react to carbs, and there's no reason to prick my finger. So that's my thoughts on that. But so much confusion over sugar fasting, the sugar diet. The basics of it are sugar fasting is going to be the fastest way for you to be able to control your weight on a scale. And it might be the greatest diet strategy of all time. I made a statement before that I think it's even more powerful. I think it's a version of, it's like amplified fasting. It's like a stronger way to fast because you have more like vitality. You got more balls, you got more nuts. You're gonna feel stronger, you're gonna feel better. Your output is going to be increased rather than decreased. The people talk about the law of thermodynamics all the time, how it can't be broken, how you have to be in a caloric deficit in order to lose weight, basically. And there's some things that could maybe throw monkey wrenches in that, and there's things that could maybe potentially circumvent some of that, but the laws of thermodynamics would still be probably at play. And even with what's going on with the sugar diet, it's not necessarily that you're in a caloric surplus, but you are revving your metabolism. Let's say that your metabolic rate is here, and your metabolic rate is here, and that your calories per day is here, right? As you start to give yourself more and more of these simple sugars from fruit, honey, etc., candy, there is no good and bad sugar the way that we're looking at some of this stuff now. But as you go to increase the amount that you're consuming every day, as those simple sugars start to creep up, the metabolism is kind of going along with it, I think. And I think what's happening as you raise that up, I think your metabolism is just staying a little bit higher. You're getting a little bit more burn, so therefore you are in a caloric deficit. One of the questions swirling around this diet a lot, and I will get to questions in a little bit, so thank you guys so much for coming on here. I really appreciate it. One of the questions been swirling around is like, people think this is just for people that are lean and in good shape. But as always, all diets are going to benefit people that are already in shape because they already have like a healthy metabolism. Oh, there we go. There we go. Sorry. People, I think this is a diet that anyone can use. It's a strategy more so than the diet or not and stuff like that. Candy, maple syrup, fruit, sugar. The fruit, you have a lot of options. You can also have vegetables too, but vegetables aren't like they're not a main staple of this. If you want on a sugar fasting day, I'd have a salad for dinner or a sorbet, some kind of something that makes a lot of sense. Have, a smoothie and then the intermittently sugar-free fast. You need to modify your sugar, and you're going to you keep it really simple. You're still going to sugar fast. You're going to intermittent is going to be and a starch and maybe some vegetables too. And now you have a very well off. That's going to be the key factor to have the adherence. You determining what's going to be best for you. Sugar fasting is becoming so popular, not just because it's a fad or it's a thing that people are sharing. I'm sure it will die down a bunch, right? Like everything dies down. Things get a lot of attention and they die down, right? Carnivore run, like it got people's attention for like 5 years or so. That's pretty cool. Keto, interestingly enough, it never dies. It kind of like fades out a little bit and it comes back. It fades out a little bit, it comes back. Why does it do that? Well, it's effective. And we'll see that happen with carnivore. We'll see this happen with this very diet because the evolution of this diet basically already is to have it be cyclical. So there's going to be some sort of cycling of macros going on at some point. There's also going to be a lot of learning going on. Like when I start sprinting again, I'm going to dial it in. I'm going to dial it in to be, sugar diet sport, and have like a little bit more of a performance side of it. And speaking of that, Joe.English on Instagram wrote a book, and everyone should go and check it out because that dude, Professor Nuts, he got absolutely, completely peeled doing the sugar diet. And that guy went to the end, man. He really did. He ate candy for like 4 months straight, according to himself. He ate straight candy for like 4 months straight, and got completely, unbelievably diced. Now, I want to address something before I start getting to the questions. And it's this idea of like what's healthy, what's people have a tendency to want to think that candy's not healthy. Well, candy and sometimes pizza and stuff like that isn't healthy for kind of multiple reasons. One reason why candy's not great is because it has some properties to it that could lead to tooth decay, gum disease, and so on. It has citric acid. There's a lot of acid and stuff like that in fruit too. So you do have to brush your teeth a little bit more on this diet. But you should be brushing and flossing anyway, right? When it comes to candy, one of the things that makes some of these things bad in general, just bad food in general, is that it takes up real estate in your stomach for otherwise healthier options. And then people end up being nutrient diluted. People end up being protein diluted. I've talked about protein leveraging for many years and how important it is. You're gonna go have a big dinner with some friends and some family. Well, throw down a chicken breast before you go. Have a protein shake before you go. It's gonna just calm everything down a little bit. It's gonna bring that noise down. It's gonna bring that noise down of when you go to that restaurant, they put the bread and the butter on the table. Maybe you just have like a piece of bread and you don't even have the butter, right? You're mindful. You're like in more control, right? And unhealthy food takes up space, takes up room. So candy, like in a kid's diet, it's very frustrating because you're like, God damn it, I don't want you eating that candy because mom made you dinner, right? And now they don't have a stomach for dinner because their mind, their body, their spirit, their taste buds, everything was tuned in to how damn good those sweets were that they were eating or whatever the candy was of choice. And the same thing happens to adults. How many of you have parents or even grandparents that just do really shitty with their diet? And they do shitty with their diet because they're diluting their diet with crappy food. They're still eating snacks. They think snacks are fine. And snacks are fine if you redefine what a snack is. And so I like the Stan Efforting model of better is better. Better is better. Like, what's better? What's better than fruit? Not much, right? Fruit's great. What's another option to get fruit in? Fruit juice. What's another option to get simple sugars in? Candy. We have to keep in mind that sugar is a plant. Sugar is as natural as fruit. Prove me wrong. Like, how is it not as natural as fruit? Okay, it's not. It's bleached and probably a bunch of other things. I get it. Okay, the sugar cane, the regular table sugar. Maybe it is healthier to buy sugar in the raw or something like that, right? But we also need to backtrack a little bit here for a second too and talk in terms of health. We want to shoot the alligator closest to the boat. We want to take care of the biggest problem facing America today. And depression and anxiety and suicide rates, even what goes on in our medical system, a lot of things can be helped quite a bit with people just being less fat, people finding a way to lose body fat. There's a lot of questions circulating around being unhealthy going into this diet, like being like type 2 diabetic. Now, there's a big difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. And first of all, I gotta say, like, don't just follow my advice. Make sure that you dive into this more for yourself. But the principles of this diet could really help a lot of people that are insulin resistant and or people that have type 2 diabetes, people that are full-blown diabetic, because this is going to resensitize your insulin sensitivity. This is going to recalibrate your insulin sensitivity. And how many people need that? I think almost everybody needs that. So sugar diet is an amazing way to go. I just want to repeat again for some of you that might have just tuned in. Sugar fasting is pretty simple to get the grasp of. Simple sugars, honey, sugar itself, fruit juice, maple syrup, candy. Boom, done. If you want some vegetables, like I said, you could throw some vegetables in there. I found a really good dressing, which is just balsamic vinegar. Balsamic vinegar is like absolutely amazing. I really like it a lot. Regular vinegar would work too, but you just want to find, fat-free options, and like a fat-free ranch or something. It's going to be disgusting probably. So just don't even bother. I do know some people that will use yogurt as a type of dressing, but I've never tried it before with like a fat-free yogurt. So you could put some Italian seasoning in there or ranch seasoning in there rather, and probably come up with something halfway decent, but I don't know. I don't know if I trust that. Anyway, I'm gonna take some questions now. Oh, these are dirty. Anyway, I'm not gonna bother to clean them up. But yeah, a big question on the diet almost always is that people are always super curious about, whether they can do this diet if they're fat. And you do this diet if you're fat, you can do this diet if you're skinny, you can do this diet kind of no matter what. The one thing I would discourage you from is for people that want to gain weight, I would just say do the vertical diet. And for people that are looking for like just a different diet from this, and they don't really love the idea of some of this, check out the vertical diet by Stan Efferding. It's great. Let's see. Someone says, hey, Mark, sugar diet, 80, 10, 10, with a different name. I guess so. I mean, look, the sugar diet, it's pretty simple to me. It's new. Like, I know there's people like, oh, this guy did this and this guy did that. It's kind of new. Like, this version of it in this way is kind of new. And also, welcome to modern society where you can, we have the option to just eat like hundreds of grams of carbohydrates from simple sugar. We can just like spoon feed tons and tons of sugar down the old hatch, because we have industries and we have capitalism in this country that makes it easy to get these fruits from just about anywhere. But there's been other diets passed around, and I give credit all the time. Cole Robinson, Joe English is somebody else I just mentioned. I forget the other guy's name, but there's Durian Ryder who's been doing this for like 15 years. There's just like differencing of opinion, but I give a lot of credit to Cole Robinson for kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I do want to say, let's see, can you switch keto? Yeah, so if you're coming off of keto, kind of seemed like the question was basically, if you're coming off of keto, can you dive right into this? That's what I did. I came off this from, being low carb for a long time and just dove right in. Be a little cautious though, don't have like a giant bowl that's got like 700 grams of carbs when you haven't eaten a carb in like 6 months. You just use your head, right? And there's some people who are like shitting their pants from this this food and stuff like that. And there's people that probably haven't eaten much fruit in a while. And the importance of the sugar diet and the importance of sugar fasting is to really teach the world that sugar is not the enemy. And we've known this, right? Like I've said war on carbs, it is all like a play on words. You guys know that. I've talked about that many times. And even again, in the War on Carbs book, I do talk about a maturation of the diet where you go on a journey where you start off with very low carbohydrate and then over a period of time, you start to add some back in. And what I've been doing for a long time now, lean meat and fruit. I've been talking about meat and fruit for 8 years, 6 years, 7 years. And the discovery of the leaner meats was kind of more recent. That's been the last 2-3 years. Somebody's asking about coffee. I don't want to tell people what they can and can't do. What I will tell you is that when you have sugar, it doesn't seem like you need the coffee. It doesn't seem like you need as many stimulants. I got my new brew right here, which has kratom and kava in it. I really like it a lot. But kratom, something that speeds you up a little bit, right? It's something that fires you up, and I like to sometimes have it when I'm popping on here or podcasting. So, I'm not going to tell everybody what they can and can't do. I do think it's important to take every drug that you consider to put in your body, caffeine being one of them, and you're considerate of the fact that it's a drug, and you may be considerate of the fact that it's important that you treat it appropriately. I know there's a lot of studies on coffee and caffeine and stuff, and that's fine. I don't think there's a big deal with it. I don't even think like some alcohol here and there is a big deal, but I do think it's important to be mindful of these things. We do have somebody that chimed in with a super chat. I'm going to get to that in a second, but somebody's asked about white sugar is bleached. Yeah, it is. It is bleached. One thing I think is interesting is that people are getting mad about this diet a lot. Like you'll see the comments sometimes. The comments on YouTube are great, and it's usually like some people just have some conjecture, like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or let's have like legitimate questions. But on Instagram, man, I'm getting torn apart over there. I could use your guys' help. Mark Smelly Bell on Instagram, back me up, man. Go in there and don't be mean to people, don't be rude to people, but go in there and say, "Look, man, I've been doing this diet for a while. Turns out it's working great for me. Sorry that you're mad about it." Can someone in the sugar diet still work out hard at the gym? Yeah, man, that's what this diet is for. This diet is to really kick in your ability to train and your ability to train hard. You're able to train on a completely different level with some of these sugars flying around in your system. If you guys could hold on for 1 second, I'll be right back. Promise. And I'm back. Got my wife coming in for some, yeah, she's gonna grab her phone and she's gonna feed me some of these questions because it just works better that way. Like, I'm a shit reader. Yeah, refined sugars in general are fine on this diet. Like, shoot the alligator close to the boat. We need to lose weight. If you just did straight candy for 30 days, you would lose weight. You would lose weight fast, especially if it was in the absence of fat. Remember, a lot of what we're talking about here, it's in the absence of fat and in the absence of protein. Those of you that are worried about fats or proteins, those of you that have concern over that, especially those of you who have concern over protein consumption, just eat some protein. Like, don't worry about it too much. You want to keep that protein, you want to position that towards the evening time. And there's multiple reasons for that, but you're trying to basically stay sugar fasted for as long as you can. You kind of have this sugar fasting window, 20 hours, 10 hours, like whatever it is. And then you're going to, have a lean piece of meat or starch on days when you're maybe not exactly doing the sugar fast. And then bam, you'll pop back into the sugar fast.
Did you already answer that?
I didn't know.
Okay.
All right, here comes my wife to save the day. She's gonna read the question from the super chat.
Okay, so Kelly Fever XO says, I try to walk a mile about 5 times a week. Is this enough movement for this diet, or do you need to become a gym bro to see results? Keto worked well for me until it didn't. Thank you.
You gotta always be a gym bro. Nah, you don't need, in my own experience, which is I've always lifted, so from my own experience, I don't know what it's like to not lift. What I would recommend though and suggest is maybe looking into getting a weighted vest. I think a weighted vest is a good way to get some amplified walking in, but it's not even necessary. It could be an added component, but just for the record, no one has to train in order to get great results from this diet. But we do know that exercise, that's really great that you're walking so frequently. So continue that, please, because we know that exercise isn't great necessarily for weight loss, but it's amazing at helping people to maintain their weight loss. And we see the same thing, whether it's walking or whether it's lifting. One of the advantages, though, of some sort of weighted something or other, farmers carry weighted, wearing a weight vest here and there, even if it's only 10, 15 pounds, adding just a little bit of muscle mass will help change your metabolic rate. And it would also help with nutrient partitioning. And so when you do hammer some carbohydrates, they will go into the muscles rather than potentially being stored as fat. We have another question?
Yeah, someone said, can you just add any starches you want, like rice, potatoes, or what's the situation there?
I recommend, if you're gonna do starch, that you just do it like once a day. We don't have to be so tied to these rules all the time, but do the best you can with that information. I think in terms of starch, you can go all the way as clean as like rice and potatoes, and you can go all the way as dirty as some cereal. Cereal, again, it would be something I would have in the latter half of the day, like eating a big giant bowl of cereal before you go to bed. Might not be the best activity of all time, but it's a good way to help with adherence to a plan. People overeating cereal, like if you try it and you just tend to overeat cereal, then just don't do that again, because that's not going to be productive to your weight loss. We want to always make sure that scale is going down. And so anything that you add in that may be like kind of gray area, you're not too sure about, you're like, I don't know if I heard Cole or Mark talking about that, but I'm going to give this a whirl. When you do go to try something, the key indicator that it's working is that scale dropping downward.
And then can you just switch right into this diet or switch right out of it? What do you suggest?
Yeah, some people have been asking, if they're coming from a carnivore background or a keto background. I don't think the background matters a ton. Obviously, it does matter. Like, your background always matters. And that's actually the criticism of a lot of nutritional studies that have been done. They're like, oh, this keto diet did, X, Y, and Z for somebody, or this particular diet did this for somebody. And unfortunately, a lot of times they're not tracking what those people did going into that, because that is important. But it's not that relevant in terms of, you're still going to be able to improve your metabolism. You're still going to be able to improve your insulin sensitivity. It just might come faster for some people than others. For myself, it took me about a month to get adjusted to this. And for those of you that are going to do this diet, I think it's a good idea whenever you're trying any diet, you can dive into the sugar fasting. That could be something you just dive right into. But in terms of trying to like do this a little bit more lifestyle wise, give yourself some grace, give yourself some time. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Allow yourself to take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. For me, like I said, it took me almost a month to get this down.
Okay, here's a super chat from Rays. When do you usually feel an energy boost? I've been doing fruit all day, rice at dinner, and more fruit if needed, but it's day 2 and I still feel no change.
Yeah, everyone's going to have different results. Thank you so much for the question, and thank you for the donation. I really appreciate that. One thing you might want to consider is to maybe just up your carbohydrates a little bit and eat more, because you should be getting like a good energy bump from that, from what you're eating. There's another possibility though too, is that you might not be that like carb sensitive yet. You might not be that insulin. You might have a little bit of insulin resistance potentially, because if you think about like a kid, you know, those of you that have children, or those of you that have like nieces and nephews or young family members, you know, the 7-year-old kid drinking the soda at the picnic or barbecue, everyone's always worried about him. They're afraid he's gonna like lose his mind and go crazy. It's because they're very sensitive to those sugars and very sensitive to those carbohydrates. And so as you get resensitized to the carbohydrates you're consuming, even a small amount will probably do a lot. Fruit and fructose in general though, fruit is a combination of fructose and sucrose, and I think sometimes even some dextrose, depending on the, glucose I meant to say, depending on the type of fruit. So there's a wide variety of, or a variety of sugars that are coming from fruit. So you may want to even try some different fruits, but you may even want to try like straight up sugar. Like get a bowl of fruit, whatever your favorite fruit is, and get a little honey on there and maybe throw some sugar over top of it. You're gonna feel like a weirdo doing some of this stuff. And if you don't have that much of a sweet tooth to do that, because some people are like adverse to that, they're like, that sounds disgusting and I don't want to do it. Maybe try a little bit of candy. Try like a blow pop, or try popsicles or something like that. Like try some different things out, because those other sugars, they should hit you a little bit more and they should rev you up a little bit more.
So people are asking about supplements like multivitamins, specifically fish oil pills. Can you still take that on this diet?
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think DHA is something that the body does not produce on its own. So DHA, EPA, omega-3s, to me it doesn't sound like a bad idea. And I don't think it's going to hurt anything. So that's what I like to think about, whether it's business or whether it's working out or whether it's my diet. How does this help? How does this hurt? It sounds like a decent health practice. You know, I'm not going to stop you from taking vitamin C. I'm not going to stop you from maybe consuming, you know, vitamin D or whatever the vitamins and supplements are that you really enjoy. Then I would say keep at it. I would just say that just try to follow the rules of the sugar diet. And when you're sugar fasting, you're trying to consume no protein and no fat. How strict you want to be with that, I'll leave that up to you. Having like 3 fish oil capsules, I don't think is like detrimental. So if you believe that that's a good health practice for you, then I would continue onward with that.
Someone asked just, why are you pushing this diet so hard?
Because I've been kidnapped by Big Sugar. And my wife and I, we own a sugarcane factory, and so we're just trying to make the most profit that we can off of it. No, I've never seen anything like this before. So when something's different and new, and I've never seen it before, I like to really tell people about it a lot. And I think you should all be thankful that when CrossFit came around, I was powerlifting. Because I did talk a lot about CrossFit, and I was very much a fan of it. And had I not been in dead center in the middle of my powerlifting career and in my prime, I would have really wanted to do CrossFit, and I would have talked and yelled at every single person I saw. I think that sugar fasting is the jujitsu that people have been looking for. Jiu-jitsu, when it came around, when Royce Gracie came around and just absolutely dominated MMA and dominated UFC, it was something that no one ever seen before, but it was super effective. And so I think that's what we're seeing with the sugar fasting, is that this is pulling weight off of people like crazy. It's not necessarily working for every single person. I don't know if there's a diet out there that is ever going to work for everybody. I mean, even Ozempic and some of these other things, these GLP-1s, they don't work for everybody. Diet and exercise and all these different strategies, they don't always work for everybody. But I think that if we can continue to gather more information and we continue to have more options, I think more options is the most critical thing. And so why am I sharing this? Because I want you guys to have another option. I'm not saying this is the only option. I'm not saying that this is the best option. Although I do feel that this is a superior option to a lot of other options that are out there, because let's face it, intermittent fasting and fasting for long periods of time, I like those practices. I think they have a lot of efficacy, and I think they're great in so many different ways, but they also kind of suck. You know, my wife and I have done them together where we do 24-hour fast or 48-hour fast, or we'll just do intermittent fasting, and we're both sometimes just like kind of like blah, like you're just dragging through those things. And yeah, you still get through your day fine, your energy's not horrible. But again, I just think that this strategy is maybe more optimal than a lot of other strategies out there. And I think that this particular plan just completely kicks the shit out of a lot of other plans that we've seen people do. But the truth is that, again, this is gonna hit a big wave. This is going a lot bigger than just what you're starting to see right now on social media. This is the sugar rush of 2025. You know, and now's the time to invest. You know, invest now in Jamba Juice, because it's gonna continue to like those places, or all those smoothie places are gonna blow up. So that's why I'm promoting. That's why I'm talking about it, is because I think it can be really useful and helpful to a lot of people.
This another I don't know, the blue thing. It says, is Cinco relevant with sugar fast? C-I-C-O?
Always, yeah, Cisco or whatever, however you say it. Calories in, calories out. Yeah, that whole thing. Oh, always and forever. Kevin Hall, the work of Kevin Hall. You know, it just seems like every time that gets studied and researched, it just goes back to the same old thing again. Can you lose weight in a caloric surplus? Can you gain weight with a caloric deficit? It's like, I don't know. But what about like hormones and stuff? What about like, I don't know, what about if we were to inject somebody with like estrogen or something like that? So we do it with cows, right? And we do it with animals, where we do inject them with certain things to make them bigger. And yeah, you get injected with what? Testosterone? Like testosterone will change a lot of things about you, because you're going to gain more muscle mass, but that's factored in there too, because the more muscle mass that you have, the more your metabolic rate starts going wild. There are things though, like bloating, and I think there's particulars to food, and Joel Green has talked about this, so this is where things get to be a little weird, but yes, basically in the broadest terms, yes, calories in, calories out applies to all diet and all forms of dieting. But there are a little bit of weird things to think about. And Joel Green mentioned that he believed that there's gears to your mitochondria. And sometimes your mitochondria can be spun, you know, really tight, and it can have these like different gears. Like if you're super healthy, let's say, you have, you know, 5 gears of these mitochondria, and it could be spinning and just cranking out energy like crazy, and you might be producing more energy than the person that's sitting next to you, who might weigh the exact same, they might be the exact same age, and might have a lot of the same circumstances. But for multiple reasons, your mitochondria and just your overall metabolism is working a little differently than somebody else. So I think that there's a lot of shit that we don't know, but I don't think calories in and calories out will ever necessarily be like disproven.
Someone wants to know, is this mainly a diet for weight loss, or can this help with health issues?
Weight loss is a direct, baseball bat across the head to someone's health. Like it's direct in terms of like knocking out a lot of disease. When we lose body fat, we're making a huge dent in becoming a healthier person. Body fat, body fat, body fat. Everywhere you look, people are fat, sick, and near dead. People are fat and bloated. We have been able to increase our lifespan, or rather our health span, but our lifespan hasn't really changed much. We're living a little bit longer, but we're usually living longer under like some shitty circumstances. And so I believe that this diet can really help. I mean, if this diet can help with type 2 diabetes, well, type 2 diabetes and heart disease are like, they're linked together pretty good. I don't think that people should really look at this diet as being some sort of cure for diseases that are, very, very harmful, and diseases that can kill you, or diseases that can you can end up losing a foot or something like that because you have diabetes. Those are very, very serious things. But I think it makes a lot of sense for people to start to do their own research and start to learn, get yourself closer to the truth. What's the truth? Have you been lied to about this and that? How effective is your low carb diet and your metformin? How is that? Is that working okay for you? If it is, then maybe you continue onward, and maybe you're happy with your doctor and you're happy with the way that things are flowing for that for now. But maybe there's a reason to poke around a little bit. Maybe there's something more optimal. Maybe Ray Peat and maybe the rice diet guy and some of these things, maybe they were right. There are things to think about though. Anytime anybody's pumping something out to be like a cure for anything, you should always just be a little cautious, because it is your health. And I want for you guys to be empowered to take your health into your own hands. But the only way you're going to be able to take your health into your own hands is when you start to do some of your own research. So you'll have to you'll have to take your time with it. With the rice diet, which was utilized, I think in like the 40s or 50s to help people with diabetes, which I didn't even know people had diabetes back then. But diabetes and obesity, interestingly enough, has been a problem or not necessarily diabetes, but obesity has been a problem for a really long time. I don't know when we discovered diabetes, but in reference to the rice diet, that guy did blast people with a lot of rice, and he felt that rice actually had too much protein in it, so he started to dilute it with sugar, which is even more interesting. But probably the most interesting thing, and it's kind of left out of the conversation, I just learned this recently, and I probably need to look into it a little bit more. But that diet, the rice diet, was only like 1,000 calories. So it seems like really low calories is super effective in helping with a lot of disease. But this diet, just like a 1,000 calorie a day diet, this diet seems to be pulling weight off of people at a miraculous level. So if you're 350 pounds and you're pre-diabetic or have diabetes or even just have insulin resistance, I think this makes a lot of sense for someone to at least investigate further. I don't want to say just drop everything you're doing and just start doing this tomorrow. Don't do anything reckless. There's no reason why you can't try everything in life low and slow. Take your time. There's no rush. I know some of you feel desperate and you really feel like you need to lose weight yesterday, and I don't disagree with that. I understand what that feeling is like, but I also think that if you take your time, you're going to be way safer and way better off.
Okay, this guy paid €5. He says, I'm trying to get the message about sugar fasting out there. My channel is at Sugar Diet Dave. He's on day 5 and he's lost 5 pounds.
Great job, Sugar Diet Dave. I think in England and in the UK, I think they have a sugar tax, which is interesting. I think they have thought about doing something like that here in the United States, and I'm not against some of those things because when you're talking. See, one of the issues is like I'm talking to everybody, right? And my audience is not that big yet. Like it's going to continue to grow. But even on Mark Bell's Power Project, where the audience is very large, or even on my Instagram where the audience is very large, it's still not that huge to where I'm talking to everybody. So sometimes it's easier just to tell people, hey, sugar is toxic, but they're leaving out a lot of details. Sugar is toxic when you have caloric toxicity, when you have too many calories. And normally the problem with sugar is that there's a lot of fat accompanied with it. It appears, and it seems like, if you're not in a caloric surplus, it seems like almost everything is fair game.
Some people are asking, can you take creatine on this diet?
Oh my God, you fucking cheaters. All these non-natty people. Creatine. Of course you can take creatine, but I don't really, as much information as there is on creatine, it probably does a little bit more for your brain than it does for your muscles. But if you guys feel like you're getting results from it, then that's cute and that's cool. But I always say that I believe that creatine is hope for the natty people.
So this guy says he's been on the diet and he just feels still very sluggish and not great. What do you suggest he do?
Cool. When you guys are writing in questions, it'd be helpful if you try to give me a little bit more details. It doesn't have to be a whole podcast worth of information, but if you tell me like your body weight and stuff.
He says he's hungry and sluggish, so.
Yeah, it takes a while to get used to a new protocol. It takes a while to get used to a new plan. So do your best to, give it another go. And also I'd be interested to know how you're doing this diet. Are you doing straight sugar fast? Because a sugar fast, in my opinion, can be a little bit of a bummer because you're just basically eating fruit and sugar and honey and maple syrup, and like it's fine. Like it's not that hard to make it through a day of it because many of us have done a 24-hour regular fast, and now you're just asked to do a 24-hour fast with fruit and fruit juice. So it's like easier than what you may have been up against in the past. But I would say that these diets, they always take a little while for you to feel good. And if you're looking to try to give this thing an honest shot, what I would recommend is taking some breaks from the sugar fast and just having some lean meat and some starch with dinner, and then kind of reset and then do another sugar fast. Maybe you do like a 48-hour sugar fast. That's what I did like a week ago. And then I did a sugar fasting day, and then in the evening I broke that up by having lean meat and starch, and then I'm kind of putting that on repeat. Or maybe you're doing it like every other day. Like there's a lot of ways that you can tackle this, but I want you to feel good. And usually the best way to feel good is to eat more. So if you're hungry, eat more. If you're hungry, eat an apple. And after you have the apple, if you're hungry, then eat an orange. And if your energy is low, you might need things that are more dense. You might need like jarred or canned peaches or canned fruit, because canned fruit will have high fructose corn syrup in there, and that stuff can be a little bit like crack cocaine.
This was Obesity, username. What would be a good GH protocol on the sugar diet, especially before bed?
GH protocol?
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Probably talking about growth hormone. Why would you be asking me about growth hormone? No, I don't know a ton. That's out of my realm. I don't utilize growth hormone. I've utilized it before. It seems to be great. Most of the people that I know that utilize growth hormone, a lot of times they take it both in the morning and in the evening. So people like it for sleep. They like taking it before bed. And there's some people that like to take it before an activity, because it's believed that growth hormone can make energy production a little bit easier. I don't know why. I don't know the information on that, but something along those lines was said by my buddy Andy Triana, aka SuperTraining. So that would be my recommendation for that.
Some people are having a debate about whether sugar feeds cancer and how this affects that.
Yeah, there's still not a lot of good solutions for cancer. There is guys like Robert Lustig, and there's a handful of other guys that think that not eating sugar solves everything, but we're already seeing that that's not the case. I myself had some insulin resistance when doing other diets, but I do have to admit it was pretty difficult for me to rein in my hunger sometimes. Carnivore and keto would stifle that a little bit, but it wouldn't stifle it enough. And it would be amazing if keto and carnivore were a panacea. And it would be amazing if the sugar diet is a panacea, but there's really not one thing that's gonna, cover all aspects of health and nutrition and give you the vitality that you need. I know a lot of people are just asking, why don't you just do a balanced diet? In the end, this will end up being a very balanced diet. And as I go through it and as I get myself to that 200-pound goal, once I get myself to that end game, I can shuffle things around to where this will basically be a cyclical diet that will cover getting enough fats, getting enough carbohydrates, getting enough protein, and so on. But for now, this is like an experiment. And for a lot of people, they need to take a deep breath, and they need to realize they've been off balance forever. They've been off balance with their diet, they've been off balance with their mind, they've been off balance with their life. Their life is flipped upside down, it's chaotic, things are messy, and they are very, very overweight. So you need to put everything on pause in some way, which is impossible to do, right? So you need to kind of put everything on pause and say, I need to lose weight. I need to work on that. This isn't my back hurts, I should start to stretch my hamstrings a little bit, and I should start to stretch my hips out a little bit and see if I can find some pain relief. This is like an emergency situation where somebody's been 120 pounds overweight for a really long time, or someone is just they weigh 30 more pounds than they did in high school, and it makes them kind of feel like crap every day. But it's just this nagging thing that's just kind of in the background, and you'll get to it tomorrow, and you'll get to it tomorrow. But this particular plan can really help pull weight off of people, along with, there's a lot of other plans too. I know that people are hyped on this, and this is the thing that everyone's talking about for now. I want to make sure I'm not dismissive of a lot of other plans and a lot of other diets. But again, just kind of back to keto and carnivore. I think there's a reason why a lot of keto and carnivore people tend to store, mainly carnivore, not keto necessarily, because true keto people are eating tremendous amounts of fat and actually lowering their protein as well. So I don't think that subset of people are maybe as affected. But I notice a lot of people are holding on to fat kind of around the love handle area. Just look at all the kind of famousest carnivores, and they seem to hold more chub in that particular spot. And I think that's just my own observation. It's not a shot at anybody. I like all those people, and I am friends with all those people, and hopefully that continues. I have tons of respect for all those people. But it does, in my opinion, I think that's a sign of some insulin resistance, along with sometimes some of the blood work that we see from some people. And that's been a problem area for me forever. I had a lot of lower back, side and back fat that I just hated. And I finally got rid of it. I would still like to improve from where I'm at now, but forever I've just had no waste. And I want to really try to taper that sucker in once and for all. So that's what I'm working on.
Some people are having a debate about fructose and the liver.
Yes, so interesting thing about fructose, it doesn't require the same amount of insulin that glucose would require. So fructose can be really beneficial in having the liver to store glycogen. Interestingly enough, and I'll have this guy on my podcast. I heard this guy on a YouTube video the other day talking about the importance of shutting down fat burning. And we think that it's great to just forever be in this like fat burning state, right? But it turns out that that's not the case. And I'll have that explained in more detail on this channel at some point. But what we originally think a lot of times is usually just like slightly off. So I think having a liver full of glycogen, I think some people might view to be as bad. But I'm learning more that supplying the liver with supplying the liver with glycogen, with glucose, is very important in terms of like the overall metabolism of your body in general. It seems like, and I could be wrong on this, but it seems like when the liver is happy, a lot of the other functions of your body and your metabolism seem to be increased. I think that your thyroid gets a little bump from it. Stan Efferding used to always talk about having like a little bit of cranberry juice or orange juice in the morning, as it was something that could potentially just give you a little bit of sugar, just a little sugar bomb. But he's talking about an 8-ounce glass. He wasn't talking about anything crazy, but he thought that was really important for people to intentionally kind of spike that glucose level up just a tiny bit, because fruit is a combination of sugars. It doesn't just have fructose in there. But he also thought it was good to make the liver, quote unquote, happy. And I agree with that. So I think people think that fatty liver is going to happen, but it's called fatty liver. And fatty liver, insulin resistance, diabetes, they all happen. It's all a lipid situation and not a glucose situation.
People are asking when the Dorian writer interview.
Yeah, unfortunately, my ace in the hole, Ryan Soper, he got married. And so he's my guy that puts everything up on my channel. And he's enjoying himself. He's on his honeymoon. So the world has to wait for the Dorian Rider. Yeah, he should be fired, right? I mean, come on. We should be getting rid of him. What the hell is going on? So when he gets back, I will make sure that episode goes up, and we'll follow it up with Stan Efferding too, who absolutely destroyed on this YouTube channel. It won't be on my podcast. I will be podcasting and doing some crossover stuff on the sugar diet, but mainly for now, most of the stuff is going to appear right here. We're trying to blow this channel up, blow this channel out. So please tell people that I'm talking about sugar fasting day and night. You guys probably seen how many times I'm popping on here. I'm trying to communicate as much as possible. I'm going to take one more question, and then I'm going to get the hell out of here, and I'm going to go eat some dinner.
Okay, we had one vote to fire Ryan, and some people are asking about sodium.
Oh, we had someone pop in with a super chat too, so we'll be answering that question as well.
Do you want to answer about sodium? I don't know.
I will, yeah. Here's the amazing thing: is like when you're getting in a fruit, you're getting in so many nutrients. You're getting in magnesium, you're getting in potassium. And by the way, I know it's nerdy and dorky, but use ChatGPT to check some of these things out. I use it all the time. My wife's always laughing about me because I'm having conversations with ChatGPT. Sorry, we're getting the lawn cared for right now, so it might get a little loud. But you're getting a lot of potassium in. You don't really need as much sodium when you're doing the sugar fasting and on these days where you're following this. And you're going to find you may not need as much water. You may not need as much water while you're on this plan, but you still need your sodium. I mean, it's going to get hot out, and it's important to stay hydrated. I sell a hydration product. I would love for you guys to purchase that from MBSlingshot.com or withinyoubrand.com. We have chocolate and salted caramel, fruit punch, and lemon berry. So those are all really good options, and it has other stuff in it as well, if you guys want to try some of that out. Before we answer the super chat question too, I want to talk about pooping your pants just for a second, because I know that's happening to some people. Whenever we switch diets, we got to be really careful with just diving all in, right? Because diving all in probably is going to mess up our guts. Diving all the way in probably is going to not feel so great on our stomach. And so just do everything with a little bit of caution, just low and slow, take your time. There's no huge rush. Don't just downing, tons and tons of fruit when it's causing, an obvious like disruption of your stomach. I think two things are going on. One is, for some people, they may not be used to the fruit that they're eating or the vegetables that they're eating. And I think you're gonna have to learn what types of fruit work well with you. For some people, the fibrous fruits, the berries and stuff like that, and apples, might not bother them that much. For other people, it's gonna bother them a lot. Some people say they get like stopped up and constipated from something like a banana. So if you're blowing it out, then maybe a banana to work as a plug might work pretty good.
Okay, you have two super chats. So have you noticed any difference in your soft tissue, like elbow pain, back pain, knee pain? Those things cleared up on the carnivore diet for me, but sustained adherence was nearly impossible.
I haven't noticed anything, and I have been surprised by that, because I thought by lowering my fat so much that would be an issue. But for anybody where that does pop up, I would just add a little fat in there, and that's as easy as just picking a day where you have a steak or something like that. Like, that's not even a hard thing to solve, I don't think. Pay attention to levels of soreness too, because it is advised that you take in less protein each day. My macronutrients on certain days is usually around 30 grams of fat, 100 grams of protein-ish, and the carbs I don't counter-track anything, but I'm just trying to give you guys a brief understanding or idea of how much I'm eating in terms of those macros.
Okay, when you first start the diet, is it necessary to do the 72-hour sugar fast, or can you just sugar fast during the day and eat your protein in the evening?
Yeah, you can kind of do it whatever way you want. A lot of times you guys have really good intuition. A lot of you guys have really good intuition. So if you want to do like a 72-hour sugar fast, then you can go ahead and do that. I don't see any reason why you can't just kind of like follow your own advice and your own gut feeling on that. So for some of you trying to figure out like a rhythm, what I would suggest is like try to find something that's repeatable. So you can commit to a 72-hour sugar fast, and then you can kind of get back into. You can take a day off from it, take a break from it if need be, and you kind of toggle back and forth. But what I would like to see you guys do is do something that's repeatable. And even though this plan is geared towards weight loss and it's geared towards like very, very fast weight loss, I think it's just because it's fast doesn't mean that it's great. So for some of you, it might be best for you to take your time, and that way you can stay on the plan for a lot longer. What's the last super chat there? Yeah. Sure.
Love your outros. Also respect you for being the most open-minded man in fitness/.
Is that true? Thank you for that. I appreciate the donation. Thank you so much. I try to keep an open mind about all this stuff. I try to be calm about hearing new information. I think something that throws a lot of people off when it comes to being open-minded is that the avatar that someone has. Someone doesn't look the way that person wants. Someone doesn't talk the way that person wants. Somebody's annoyed by someone's voice. Someone's annoyed by the way someone acts. Someone's annoyed by, it could be anything, right? And for me, I'm susceptible to all those things too. I judge books by their cover all the time. It's a smart thing to do. Like, you're just playing the odds. You think someone's an asshole, maybe they're an asshole. Like, that's, But I think it's important to, keep these guys open and say, that guy just said that he thinks deadlifts are totally unsafe and that he would never recommend them to his athletes. Now, I want to hear why. Because if that guy is going to be presenting that information, I would like to know what he's run into that I haven't seen that could be a possibility, that could be helpful, in my communication to people. For whatever reason, whenever I do a live, all hell breaks loose. You got weed whackers and leaf blowers and all kinds of stuff going on. Thank you guys so much for listening for today. I really appreciate it. And most of the time, my lives don't even work because of all kinds of other stupid shit. But I appreciate you all. Do your best to keep your mind open, and let's start listening to some of these vegan and fruitarians. Maybe they have something to say. Maybe there's some value there. You know, I know that we all think it's dumb. Like, I still think it's dumb. But I understand why people do it, so I respect that. In terms of it being dumb, I think it's important to eat meat. I really do. I think eating meat helps make us more smarterists and all these different things. And I just enjoy the flavor of meat. And one of the things that this diet's doing for me is it's teaching me how much I love meat in the first place. So anyway, it seems like my thing has sort of froze. Whatever the case is, of course it needs to die before. Maybe I'll just kind of hang out here and maybe it will come back. But yeah, keeping an open mind is critical, because why would you bypass anyone's information? Why would you, somebody says, I would like for you guys to develop this practice. It's an idea of equanimity. Have some equanimity in your life. The balancing of your mind. Balance your mind. It'll change your life. It'll change your life forever. When you have equanimity, when you build equanimity, because it takes time, and tranquility, when you have equanimity, the things that normally rattle a person, the things that normally shift them into an emotional state, when you're shifted into an emotional state, you're not really going to be listening anymore. You're too mad about what that guy said about how he thinks type 1 diabetes is linked to what the woman eats in pregnancy. Now you're offended because your kid's type 1 diabetic, right? Being offended makes sense, and wanting to protect your family and wanting to throw punches back at people that are saying stuff about situations that are sensitive, it makes sense. It makes sense. It does, especially when people are talking about our children. However, what comes out of the person's mouth next could be some of the most important words you ever heard. And you chose to shut them down. You chose to shut down listening to somebody on Instagram because you thought they were too fat. You shut down listening to someone on Instagram because you thought they were too old. You shut down what someone was going to say on Instagram because you think they run like shit. You think their running technique's bad, so you're not going to listen to them about anything else. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. Bill Belichick, greatest football coach of all time. How good of a football player was he? It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. John Madden, how good of a football player was he? John Madden, the answer is John Madden played for the Philadelphia Eagles. Bet you didn't know that. So he was a hell of a football player. But it doesn't necessarily always matter. What matters is what the person going to say, is it going to be of benefit to me? That's what matters. And that's the importance of keeping an open mind. I can talk about this subject forever, literally, because this is my passion. This is what I love. I don't love that life throws you so many curveballs. I don't like that life can be so upsetting and feel so damaging. And you could feel like you have so much desperation sometimes. You could just feel awful. But I'm fascinated by the fact that you don't have to be that way. You don't have to succumb to a feel. Oh my God, I'm feeling like panic, right? I'm feeling panic. Why am I revved up? I'm supposed to be going to bed. I'm feeling this like panic. or I'm feeling the weight of my mortgage, or I'm feeling the weight of my kids going away to school, or I'm feeling the weight of my child not doing well in school. You're but think about that. You're feeling the weight of it. Huh? Feeling the weight of it. All right, well, come on, motherfucker, put that weight on my back. I've lifted over 1,000 pounds before. You want to go? Let's rumble. Let's do it. You could build a capacity to carry more and more on your back every single day. We can build, our capacity is unlimited. It's completely unlimited. Could I do more? Sure, I could do more. Could I make more money? Could I clean the house more often? Could I do laundry? Could I, yes, I could, I can do that. You can do that. We all have these abilities. And over time, you're going to be able to handle more. And yes, you're going to have different capacities at different points in your life. Where I'm at right now in my life, I'm able to handle a lot because I built some pretty good capacities. But when I'm 78 and not 48, that's going to change. My eyes aren't going to be as good. My nose isn't going to be as good. My hearing's not going to be as good. Everything's going to diminish, at least a little bit, to some degree, right? And the more that those things diminish, the more that there's obstacles. So if someone is 100 pounds overweight, 200 pounds overweight, it just presents a lot more obstacles. Is it harder or easier to go out on a walk when you live in Nebraska in the winter? It's harder, right? But you can maybe get a gym membership, go on a treadmill, or maybe you can find a treadmill on Craigslist and buy one and have it at your house. There's rainy and cloudy days. There's storms coming. And we get to decide and we get to choose how we take those on. We could walk outside and go, holy shit, there's a storm going on. Oh my God. Go back inside, put on a raincoat, pop back out and be like, this is great. This is so much fun to be walking in the rain. Or this is fun, going to work in the rain. Or this is just a different day. You don't even have to be mad about it, right? Like, oh crap, I didn't know I was gonna get that soaked on my way to work because I didn't have a jacket with me or whatever. And you can choose to observe that and think about that in a different way. Holy fuck, my shirt's completely soaked. I wonder if anybody else at work has like a spare shirt I can throw on. You can start to laugh about it. You can be like, oh, I'll bum a shirt off of, one of my friends and he's like, way smaller than you or something, right? You can have a laugh about it. Or you can just be like, I'm screwed, or you spilled coffee all over your white shirt and you're going to a job interview. Yeah, that's frustrating. That, of course, I get it. It's frustrating. And the less frustrated you can be and the less you can have your emotions pulled around like you're being drug around by a bunch of wild horses, the better off you're going to be in this life, in my opinion. Strength is never weakness, weakness is never strength. I'll see you guys on the next live. Bye. Catch you guys.